Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti. We have been inundated and we have been totally flustered with the attack of coronavirus on all of us and the impact it has had globally. We have talked about this in our program in its impact on society, economics, politics, and technology, the kind of impact it has had on us all around. Today, we are going to take a break from that because I want to talk to you about Hinduism, an institution which is serving the cause of Hindu education, knowledge, Sanatan practices. And it has been in the United States for a very long time. It's called Hindu University of America. The Hindu University of America's mission and vision statement is very gorgeous. The mission statement is to engage with the people around us, create leadership, learning for the Hindu Vedic knowledge, and the mission is to make it a top-tier institution. Hindu University of America has been in existence for last 23 plus years, if not more. And they have achieved modest success. I wouldn't say they have been phenomenally successful, modestly successful, and they definitely need greater success. And to that end, the education of Hinduism, we focus a lot. We Hindus, back in our family scenario, we have been very fortunate that education, garnering knowledge, and sharing, these have been part of the forte of the Hindu mindset. We have been deep into education. Education has been very close to our heart. We are the country where we have perhaps the only country, only faith in the world, where there is a goddess named Saraswati that is supposed to be the god of all knowledge and wisdom. Now, to discuss about Hindu University of America and other details about Hindu practices, I have great pleasure in welcoming Mr. Kalyan Vishvanathan. Kalyanji, welcome to the show. He is the president of Hindu University of America. And he leads the leadership effort. He has been involved. He's a computer scientist, an engineer, been deeply involved with many professional and social activities relating to his business, as well as the voluntary work that he does for Hinduism. And then I have Mr. Yelloji Mirajkar. He is on the advisory council of Hindu University of America. And both the gentlemen, welcome to the show. So let me begin by reaching out to Kalyanji, that how has been the experience of Hindu University of America in the last as many years you have been there? And since in vision statement, you talk about engage is my favorite word, because I say it in my program that Hindus need to be engaged with the world around us. We don't live in isolation. We need to be engaged. How do you think the engagement has worked for HUA in America?
Okay, very, very good question, Bhutija. Thank you so much for having us on the program. Hindu University of America has been in existence since 1993. And it was authorized by the state of Florida. And it has been a degree granting institution. It's awarded more than 120 PhDs in the last master's and PhD degrees in that period of time. But it's been a very quiet institution. In the sense, it has been in Orlando, Florida. It had a small campus for many, many years. And it did not advertise itself very much. Its engagement was somewhat limited. Now, for the last 1 year or so, we are going through a process of reinvention and rejuvenation of this university. I think what is very heartening to note is that whatever little effort we've made to re-engage the Hindu community has borne a lot of success. We have a new kind of energy in the institution, lots of new students, and a new curriculum, a new website, a new vision and mission statements. We have really literally reinvented the university over the last 15 months or so. And we are excited about the trajectory and the roadmap that we are on right now. And I would like to at least share that our aspiration is that our students who graduate from our university with certificate degrees, certificate programs, or graduate degrees will be very active in engaging with the world in a number of different domains.
I'm very happy to hear that you have said that your students would be very engaged and you have done master's and PhD programs. And that's the key part. And that's the key part which I have experienced being in America. So, for example, when we talk about the American mainstream, in our culture, when I was growing up, children were expected to be obedient, right? We used to take pride. I remember saying people with pride, my child is a very obedient child. This country is talking about asking questions, but asking question is not defiance. And that's a very important cultural shift. The words matter. The orientation matters. So the question here is, my understanding drives me to make this inquiry with you and Yelloji, is that how are we inculcating the sense of inquiry in our children's minds so that they can interact with confidence, with assertiveness, with knowledge about who we are.
Right.
Because most of the time, majority of the Hindus themselves do not know what Hinduism stands for.
Yeah.
You know, it is unfair to call children born here as American-born confused desis. I prefer to say these are Indian-born confused Hindus as parents, because we don't bring through us our own cultural milieu that we can pass it on. And parents, if the parents fail to pass it on, so then children don't learn.
Yeah.
They learn the American culture, which is what once American investigative guy said, that if your children retain the Hindu culture, you will be good. But if they become the McDonald's and Burger King culture of American children, you will get doomed. So Yelloji, what do you think is your role as an advisory council member? How are you taking the definitive different steps than being a different university? Because you are not a university. HUA is not a university after which people will land a job. This is a knowledge enhancement center, if I may say so.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, Vibhuti ji, as well as namaste to all the viewers. It's a very interesting question that what is my role? I am in this country since 1991, landed in New York in Columbia University for my postdoc. And then for almost 25 years, I was in a multinational company in the R&D department. And I have been interacting with the community for very, very long. You can imagine how the situation was in 90s. There were less number of Indian people around. And around 2000, more number of Indian people started coming. And now there is even more. In the past, my interactions with Hindu University was just for the namesake, just knowing that there is a campus, some programs are going on. But now I do see that what was lacking in the past is a clear vision. What was lacking in the past was something like a good working team. So as an advisory council member, I'm not a faculty person, I'm not an administration person, but because of my social engagement for the last several years, I have interacted with many individuals and many organizations. My 2 cents in this Hindu University of America work is trying to connect with the individuals who have very similar aspirations to build this university, who have very similar interest in terms of taking this university to larger audience, who also have very, very passionate about Hindu University and want to work with Hindu University for its success. And that is what I, as an advisor to the member board, I will be contributing into Hindu University of America.
So tell me in 2 minutes, what do you think, considering you mentioned that earlier we did not have good leadership, earlier vision was not clear, and now it has all emerged. So this is not a criticism of the past. This is an observation that you have grown into this country since you came, just as HUA has evolved since 1993. So today in 2020, by the way, I also came to the US in 1991. So, we share that past. So the question here is that how do you see what critical steps now needs to be taken so that 20 years from now, somebody who is in your place doesn't say that we didn't do the right thing then?
Very good question again. I commend your intuitiveness in terms of trying to probe and get the most out of us. And that is the right thing to do it. See, when I say university, the success of the university depends upon 4 pillars. Number one is, does university has a good faculty staff? The second one is, does the university has a very good curriculum? The third one is, obviously, the number of students that comes to it. And the fourth, which is very, very, very important, is the funds. Now, all these things will find a meaning provided you have a clear accreditation. The accreditation process is going to help in terms of the students' movement from one place to the another place, probably the loan for their education, and many aspects of it. So the accreditation is a long and an expensive process. Now, the university as a larger team recognizes, and there is a definite plan in terms of moving in that direction.
Good.
When you have this accreditation complemented by these 4 pillars, as I said, the faculty, the courses, and the students, and the funding, it is just going to be in the right path toward the success. And I see that in last about 1.5 years interaction very closely with the university, I am very pleased in terms of the progress that has happened, and the way the community and the society is responding is also very appreciative. Obviously, we cannot be satisfied because our goal is much bigger, and we realize that if we work hard and if we work together, keeping all of our focus in one direction, that is making the university a very successful place in terms of its reputation, in terms of its credibility.
Very good. So Kalyanji, if I may come to you with the second part of the inquiry, is that, engagement of the students and accreditation, these are critical elements for the university to continue. And since this is not an institution which is providing jobs for people to join, but it is basically to enhance or learn about Hinduism, consciousness, and practices that make you a better human being, following our principles, Sanatan principles. What are the kind of courses that you offer that attracts people from not only Indian background, but including non-Indians as well? So which are your most popular courses that one can look at joining to learn, improve self-improvement and contribution to the society?
Okay, wonderful. Very good question. I want to provide you a reflection on something you asked a little bit earlier and then go into this question, okay? You said that contemporary educational environments invite students to ask a lot of questions, and they invite students to challenge assumptions, and they don't take anything for granted. Whereas in recent times, at least in your experience, even in my experience, in my families, if I asked a deep question about Hinduism, oftentimes the answers were not very lucid, were not very satisfactory, and they were met with a response that this is how it is, this is how we always practiced, this is what we believe in, and this is how it has been traditionally for many generations. So therefore, it is best to accept our traditions unquestioningly. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is inconsistent with our contemporary you could say, scientific mentality, which is to question everything and and treat everything with a certain degree of skepticism. Now, but if you go back in time, the Hindu society, Hindu civilization was not at all a belief-oriented society. It was incredibly questioning. There was a lot of space for inquiry, for discourse, for a number of different perspectives. We used to call them darshanas, and there was a very healthy regard for doubt, skepticism, questioning, and so on. So one of the things we want to do in Hindu University of America is to definitely recapture that spirit of inquiry, the spirit of searching for the truth, the spirit of questioning without fear. So no student will be told, this is how it is, you have to believe it. So that's the first thing, okay? And I think that, the students who are genuinely interested in inquiring about the nature of things will find a good home in the University of America. Now, having said that, what are our popular courses? So, for example, I'll give you some examples. Okay, we have more than 85 odd courses in the university now. I'll just speak about a few courses that are popular and I think may offer a lot of interesting insights. So the first one is called Orientation to Hindu Studies. Orientation to Hindu Studies. Now, this is a course taught by 6 or 7 different faculty members, and it unfolds over a quarter, for nearly 12 weeks, which means once a week, every quarter. And in this course, students get to experience many different perspectives, and they get to read papers, and they engage in a lot of discussions. They challenge each other. They have opportunity to, offer views. And inevitably, in my experience, the students who have gone through this course come away saying, wow, I didn't think I would learn so much from this course. I was not so optimistic that there would be so much to learn. And they are pleasantly surprised by the depth and the quality of this course. That's been a feedback that I've received consistently on that course. That's just one example. I'll give you a couple more examples. We are introducing a course in the summer called Exploring Hinduism for Teenagers and Parents. Teenagers and parents. We're trying to create a new experiment here. Can teenagers and parents together take a course? And as they engage in the subject matter of the course, can they generate new conversational spaces in their families, in their living rooms, in their dining rooms, etc.? Very often, questions that teenagers ask that parents are not very competent in answering because they themselves have not undergone any kind of formal education in Hinduism. Those kinds of questions can now become a matter for joint exploration, teenagers and parents. So these are just 2 examples. We have courses on yoga studies, holistic yoga, Antaranga yoga. We have courses on Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the vision of the Vedanta, and on and on. Hindu approaches to the peace and conflict management, and so on. So there's lots and lots of courses to explore.
That's truly remarkable because I'm very delighted that the summer course that you are starting as an experiment with parents and children learning together. That's something which I alluded to earlier on, that most of the Hindu parents themselves don't know, because we have not been taught, we have not received a formal education in Hindu beliefs or Sanatana Dharma, or even Vedas, for example. Even Vedic knowledge has not been taught in our colleges back home. Knowing fully well that Vedanta specifies the end of knowledge. Vedas identify the end of knowledge because it's all there now. So that's how we Hindus became seekers of truth.
Yeah.
And that's why we were seeking the knowledge without being able to implement that. And I totally agree with you that there must have been some distortion in our way of life, that our history is full of debates of wise priests and wise Sankaracharya and Bandan Mishra, and the literature is full of elegant debates, win or lose, and people accepted defeat in the debates, and the knowledge was shared with the audience. At some point in time, it died. I don't know when it happened, whether it was the 1,000 years of the Islamic or the British rule. I do not know that.
I can actually tell you,
Please do.
based on my understanding, right? See, the Sanskrit as a language died rather suddenly in India in the aftermath of an important decision made around 1835, when Lord Macaulay made this very famous speech in the British Parliament, and he said that we cannot no longer support the funding of Sanskrit-based education in India. So Indian money that was collected in the form of taxes by the British got diverted to Christian missionary institutions to set up missionary schools and convents. And it was taken away from traditional Sanskrit-based institutions. And therefore, within a couple of generations, you fast forward about 50 years, by around 1875, 1880, 1885, what it meant to be educated in India was to have gone through a Christian school or a convent, and Sanskrit became, within 50 years, something we had held on to for 5,000 years, almost collapsed within a period of 50 years. That's what happened. And after that happened, and you can go back to your own personal history, your grandfather or great-grandfather, they probably transitioned from traditional learning environments to British Christian missionary schools and convents. And then that's what it was to become educated. And in terms of higher education, all of our people, Mahatma Gandhi went to England to study law. Jawaharlal Nehru went to Cambridge University. Sri Aurobindo went to Trinity College, and on and on. So the thing is, what it meant to be educated, to have a modern contemporary education, was to end up somewhere in England, in Oxford or Cambridge and somewhere thereabouts. And then you fast forward another 50, 100 years, what it is to be educated today is to go to Stanford or Harvard or one of these Ivy League colleges in the United States of America. So Sanskrit really was displaced almost deliberately and systematically. Yeah. And as a consequence, you map it onto this condition when a teenager asks a question to a parent, how about this, how about that? Why does Ganesha have an elephant head? Oftentimes, the answer is not very convincing and it's not very grounded.
It's not actually, I will take a stronger word there. It is not even convincing. It's full of ignorance.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of the Lord Macaulay thing. And, here is what my question is, again, to both of you here is that despite all the knowledge, despite the high level of consciousness that we Indians enjoyed, we Hindus enjoyed, how did we let that happen to us? See, because many a times people tell me that India is an impoverished country, the British, we should be grateful to the British. In reality, the invasion of India that has happened with the Mughal and the British time, that was not to see the tourist potential of incredible India as the today's thing. No. It was essentially to participate, and they ended up looting the wealth of India. And India had 26% of the world trade without English, which is what I tell most of my American friends, without English. So the important part is When did that slavish mentality come in our mind? But be that as it may, Yelloji, I will also like to hear from you that, institution building has been the key forte of the West. Kalyanji mentioned about that people wanted to go to Oxford, London School of Economics. My father studied in London School of Economics. So I didn't. I studied in Indian colleges all through. But my father went to London School. The big people went to Trinity colleges, Yale, and all these places, whereas our Nalanda University was demolished. It's very interesting that Ferguson College, St. Stephen's, St. Francis, St. Xavier's, all the saints-driven colleges gained primary in India, whereas all the Hindu colleges, whether it was Hansaraj or SP College in Pune or anything else, or, they all got secondary status. So if you did not get in St. Xavier's, you were looked down upon. Oh, you did not make it there. How do you inspire that sense that learning Hinduism elevates you as a human being? You can be a Christian or a Muslim, whatever. It doesn't matter. But so long as you imbibe the principles of Sanatana Dharma, the eternal principle, it is non-discriminatory. It doesn't discriminate between people and gender, or it is not judgmental event. That's what is the key to our educating the world around this. Yelloji, your thoughts on this?
It's a very heavily loaded question. If we can start talking on that one, it's going to take hours and hours and hours. But I will try to limit and just share some insights on that one.
Sure.
The first one is, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadanti. That is one truth. Pursued differently. Many times we fail to explain what it is. I take myself as an example. Who am I? If I ask that question, I am husband to my wife. I am father to my daughter. I am a friend to my another friend. I am a student to a teacher. As one person I am pursued differently by different people. That perceiving differently of the same God, is the truth. That's number 1 point. Number 2, my understanding is there's a difference between the real experience, that is our philosophy, that is our religion, it is our way of life. It is very difficult to paint. We all have heard the story that the 7 blind people touching the elephant, and based upon their own understanding, describing it. So you can try to describe, but the experience part is very, very difficult. And that is what I think we need to do. For example, I will take the analogy of, the gulab jamun is very famous, whether it is in India or outside. I can describe to you that how tasty it is for me for hours, for days. I can write chapters and books, but still you will not be able to get the experience of what it is. Sure. But instead of doing all this hard work, if I give you that same gulab jamun to taste, then you will experience that one. Similarly, I think this Hindu university, as Kalyanji mentioned, that the question and answer sessions, the course, that way it is designed. In fact, I am also a student of that orientation to Hindu studies. And after 2 classes, I told the faculty that, whatever the fees I give, I got much more than that one. Because I thought I knew my own history, our own history, but I was proved wrong that I know, but not that authentically. But because of the university, I was able to understand very legitimately with the right references and with the right way of explaining and putting it in front of you, and you make the decision, you make the opinion, you take pros and cons in terms of what is given to you, and you make the decision. Ultimately, the truth is going to win. I think my philosophy here is that people has to taste the jamun. That means come and take the 1 or 2 courses. Then you will appreciate yourself. That is precisely the reason why every session people are so much interested, and every quarter the number of students are increasing. That itself indicates that with very little advertisement, very little marketing, it is the word of mouth from the people who have gone through and their opinion which is driving these things. And people come, they'll take 1 course. They are so happy, they take the 2nd course and the 3rd course. So this is what is happening. So at the end of the day, going back to that, one has to experience.
Now, that's a very, very powerful word. There is nothing that substitutes for experience. This is an experience of you and I, the 3 of us interacting today is an experience of learning about HUA and our beliefs. Now, you said word of mouth. Now, let's be very clear about one thing. Yes, word of mouth is a very powerful tool because that validates participation for somebody, because somebody says, I learned from it. That's a very powerful thing. However, we are now living in a tectonic shift caused by technology and communication. So think about it. These are my favorite things because I was part of a think tank in New York for a while, and they used to do strategic trends evaluation programs in relation to society, technology, economics, and politics. How each one of the things, everything happening in one affects the other. To some, it is more, to some, it is less, but it affects nevertheless. So here is something which I learned from coronavirus. It has taught the world, and it's a remarkable learning, that coronavirus taught the world that it is rich, poor, neutral. It is age neutral. It is young and old neutral. It is national boundaries neutral, right? It's day and night neutral. It is religion neutral. It has proved its neutrality, that if once you get it, you go quarantine or die. It has been a teacher of sorts. Sadly, though, that the humanity had to learn this with such pandemic is something which, interestingly enough, we need to learn that as people, we are the same. Whether you are in Africa, Japan, India, United States, our nose performs identical function. So here is an important part. And that's what I talk about in my conversation with people. Today, all those miracle makers, whether from church or temples or from mosques, they're all hiding. God is not listening to anyone. This is the time for our consciousness. You narrated it that you as an individual, you are a father in relationship with your wife, and with your son and daughter. You are a husband to your wife. You have many roles to perform. So, Kalyanji, this is a fascinating experience. I want to ask you that when you have such powerful programs, how are you reaching out to people taking advantage of technology that you are part of?
Yeah. So
it could be a global course, because just as another genius, Anant Agarwal, started the entire MOOCs program, EDX, yeah. I did a lot of programs in EDX, including how to make schools more effective, leadership in the schools. I did many programs on crypto and blockchain, though I'm not a technology guy, because I wanted to learn the language of those subjects. I've done a course on terrorism for that matter. My request to you would be to share with us, what is HUA doing to spread this particular course, that I can ask 100 of my friends, their father and children and mother all joined this course, and do you have the technology capability? I'm sure you have. I'm just checking in whether people can join on the web-based thing, because you can't be a classroom thing, right?
Not anymore. Yes, not anymore. So that was one of the drawbacks in the past. The university, when a university has a campus in one location, it ends up serving people who either come to that location or in and around that area.
Right.
So now Hindu University of America has become a fully online university. So our classes are held much like what we are doing today in an interactive virtual Zoom-based session.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and every class has got a faculty member, maybe two faculty members, and a group of students ranging from a small class of about 7 or 8 students at the graduate level to a class of 50, 60 people, 70 people sometimes in a big class. So we have the ability to accommodate students from around the world. And in terms of reaching out, marketing, we are primarily focused on digital marketing. We're doing a limited amount of social media advertising, and we are distributing emails and so on. And that, of course, the whole digital marketing is driven by how much money you can put into it. So our budgets are very modest right now.
Mm-hmm.
But still, that is our primary vehicle for reaching out to people who might be interested and curious about studying at Hindu University of America. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I would say anybody who is listening to this conversation, if the viewer or listener is at all somewhat curious about HUA, they should go to the website. The website is very simple. It's, HUA.edu. Hindu University of America, HUA.edu. And once you get on the website, it will lead you through various screens, and you can find, and you can reach out, you can fill out a form, write an email. I mean, there's plenty of ways of getting in touch, and there'll be guidance. Somebody will get back in touch with them, and they'll guide them through what the next steps are based on the prospective students' interest area. So it is a completely online. We're using Zoom. We have a learning management system, and we have a marketing technology behind it that we are using to outreach, to try to get more students interested. So it is pretty much a technology-driven enterprise, very COVID safe, because we are socially distanced anyway. So people can sit in their living rooms or their studies in their home. And, when you get together as a group of 30, 40, 50 people in a classroom, I mean, we really forget where these people are. They're from all over the world. But it's the conversation, the quality of the conversation, the quality of the teaching, and the engagement that really takes over. And it's been a great experience, I would say, for me too, both being a student as well as a teacher. Because I have been 3 roles. I'm the president of the university, but I'm also a student. I take courses with other faculty, and I also teach a course which I'm teaching. So therefore, it's been a terrific experience wearing these different hats. And it's been fantastic with the technologies, like you said.
I'm definitely very impressed and delighted, and as a Hindu, grateful that you are fulfilling 3 roles in one body, of a teacher, running the course, as well as whatever. So, it's wonderful. That's the way, that's the best way to teach people and educate people, that you are yourself experiential sharing, and you are sharing your experience. Now, I will, as the saying goes, every good conversation has to come to an end. We are time bound. But at this point in time, I have a contemporary question that has happened around the world. And that relates to the tragic death of a Black man, which the police, throttled him for 8 minutes, 46 seconds. And the Black Lives Matter agitation is, hurting America big time. It has had global repercussions about racial divides. And this brings me to another question, is that this happened, it's a global movement. In India, Hindus have been persecuted, killed in Kashmir, and many places. But we have never made any of these as a global issue. So for example, Churchill is heralded as the greatest wartime leader, but his decisions were responsible for many famine-related deaths in India. How is it that we Indians suffered from institutionalizing the framework of our reference. And that's the point which is very important for us, that as the saying goes, you always learn from people around you. I won't say upon opposition, but people around you. What I admire in the West is the way they have created institutions that we all seek validation from them. You know, foreign return, foreign quality goods, you know, and we were all sitting in the doldrums. Indian quality sucks. Indian education sucks. If you've gone to Harvard, you are a hero. And you've gone to London School of Economics, you are a genius. If you won an Oscar award, then your films mattered. If you won a Pulitzer Award, that means your book mattered. We have nothing of our own institution building. So I congratulate you for building HUA, and I wish you all the success. But before I end this conversation, I would like to hear from both of you in 1 minute flat or 1.5 minute flat. How do you see the role going forward? Are you going to be assertive, reaching out, and not living through Ram Bharose attitude that God is great? But God is great, but we got to do this. So by our conversation is happening because of confluence of factors, and I totally recognize that. I'm a God-loving man. I'm not a God-fearing man. I'm a God-loving man, and therefore I'm grateful to you to join this today. But it required action from us to come and commit to doing this.
Right.
So tell me about how do you see that you will accelerate the growth of HUA, what you did not do in 23 years or as many years?
So let me go first, and then
Sure.
it is better Kalyanji goes and makes the kind of closing remarks. The first thing is, just for the sake of viewers, our President Kalyanji mentioned about 2 programs. One is for exploring Hinduism for teenagers and parents, and this is going to start first week of July 8th till August 15th. The second program already mentioned is that orientation to Hindu studies. That also is going to start in the month of July and runs for 11 weeks. It's an hour session weekly, followed by about 30 minutes of discussions, which never stops at 30 minutes. And the faculty has to forcefully close. That's what is happening. And people create WhatsApp group and conversations continue. The third thing, specifically coming to your point, I'll just give an example of mine, that how the experience can make a whole lot of difference. Now, I'm also worked with the Hindu Swayamsevak Sangh, and every year we do Teachers Appreciation, which is Guru Vandana. The teachers come there, the principals come there, the Board of Education members come there, and the elected officials come there. They just go through the environment. It's a Hindu festivity kind of environment, everybody in colorful dresses, in jovial mood, with the program followed by snacks and lunch and informal interactions and things like that. And then now they are asking a question to themselves. What is it? It is the same school. It is the same faculty. It is the same curriculum. But when it comes to performance of the students, you started your conversation saying, Indians in our generation, we were very, very obedient and disciplined. And they still see here that the discipline and obedience from students of Indian origin. It may not be to the extent what we used to be as obedient, but the signs are significantly different in this country, in the school environment. So they see, because of this Guru Vandana, Teachers Appreciation Day events, that how student is supported by the family, supported by the community for their excellence. So now they are asking the question that how can you bring this system in our academic institutions? So this is all because of the experience that they have gotten through this event. Similarly, I feel that through these courses and the programs and webinars and the seminars, you only have to give them an opportunity to experience what Hinduism, Hindu aspects, Hindu culture, Hindu traditions.
Right.
And people, once they experience, and they are going to be
Thank
learning,
you.
they'll be
Thank
supported.
you. Thank you very much. What about you, Kalyaji? I mean, I would want you to close this in a minute and a half flat.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, we are living in a very, very tumultuous moment in history, and the unfortunate killing of that African American man has triggered in America a long pent up anguish on the part of the African American community, and we as Hindus, we want to express our solidarity with the African American community for the sufferings that they have historically experienced. Slavery, and then segregation, the fight for civil rights, and even today the idea that certain races are inherently superior to other races is a very, very difficult construct, which ends up demeaning entire populations. So I just want to mention that our thoughts are with our African American brothers and sisters today. Having said that, as Hindus learn about ourselves, our culture, our history, our knowledge systems that we seem to have forgotten, the Hindu narratives, the narratives that have been imposed upon us by our colonizers, and we learn to question those narratives, and we learn to create our own narratives, I think we also will slowly emerge from ignorance and doubt, largely, to being more confident and being more engaged in obviously a very competitive world that we live in today. So I think education will be a key that will unlock a new kind of confidence as a Hindu. Because I mean, Hindus are very confident of themselves as engineers and doctors and technologists and so on. But when it comes to being confident as a Hindu, we have a gap, and
We have it. Yeah.
we have a gap.
Yeah.
And I think that the Hindu University of America can offer a platform where that gap can be filled, can be bridged systematically, responsibly, and thoughtfully.
And I thank you very much to both of you for being here today and to share as much information as you have done. And I hope a lot of people join, and I would like you to be more aggressive in your marketing, because if I may share that, in 1991, when I came here, my job as an American Express banker, was to market India here. And you know very well that in 1991, India had no story to tell. And as a result of which, it was an uphill task, but through creative thinking and reaching out, we were able to succeed dramatically. We made those kind of things happen. But think about it like this: in 1991, we had no story to tell, and I know that very well. I have answered questions about India, us, Hinduism, and everything about India, which have ranged from sublime to stupid. But then, hey, but we all learn. That's the experience. And I'm wish you all the best for HUA. And, I hope you will go for an aggressive campaign for the reason. The time is ripe for our way of life to be embraced by the world around us. Because there is a huge amount of beautiful things about our faith, which have suffered because of false narratives written by, the leftist oriented people who wrote a false narrative, a wrong narrative. I have contested Irfan Habib and Ramila Thapars, who had definitely left-leaning narrative of India and Indian philosophy. So I'm talking about that aspect, is that we have to, this is the time when people are willing to listen to us. If we do not, then as I always say, we will miss the technology leap. With these words, thank you very much for being here. Viewers, those of you who are interested, join the course. Parents and children, there will be the fabulous moment in which both of you can be students and learn things as buddies. And that's the key to a family relationship between parents and children, is that instead of becoming the traditional quote unquote father in that mold, if you become their buddies, you grow better. So with these words, have a great weekend, stay safe, and namaste.
Namaste.
Replace namaste,
Namaste.
and let handshake go by.
Namaste, namaste, everybody. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.